Today, we are going to go over 15 vegetables and herbs that produce the most in containers. Most people think that the most productive crops require a large garden, but they are completely wrong, because some of the highest yielding vegetables and herbs don't need a garden at all. In fact, just a single pot can keep producing food for months, and you can harvest multiple times from the exact same container. So, let's get started. At number 15, we have cilantro. Most people don't think of cilantro as a high-yield container crop because they usually buy it in small bunches from the grocery store and assume it doesn't produce very much. But experienced container gardeners know that cilantro can become one of the most productive herbs in a small space when grown correctly. The secret is not growing one large plant, but growing many plants together in a single container. A pot that is at least 8 to 10 inches deep and 10 to 12 inches wide can support dozens of cilantro plants, creating a dense patch of edible foliage. One of the biggest reasons cilantro earns a place on this list is speed. While many vegetables require months before the first harvest, cilantro can often be harvested in as little as 30 to 45 days after planting. That quick turnaround makes it especially rewarding for beginners who want fast results. It grows best with 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day and performs particularly well during the cooler temperatures of spring and fall. In hot summer conditions, cilantro tends to bolt quickly, which is one of the most common mistakes gardeners make. Fortunately, containers provide a major advantage because they can be moved into partial shade during the hottest part of the day, extending the harvest period. Another reason cilantro is so productive is succession planting. Many experienced growers sow a new batch of seeds every 2 or 3 weeks. By the time one container is reaching peak production, another is already developing behind it. And unlike some crops that only get used occasionally, cilantro is something many people use every week. It adds flavor to tacos, curries, soups, noodle dishes, rice bowls, salsas, salads, and countless other recipes. Because it is harvested frequently and grows back quickly, the total amount produced from a few containers can be surprisingly large. What makes cilantro deserve its place on this list is not the size of any single harvest, but the combination of rapid growth, dense planting, frequent use, and repeated production. A simple container of cilantro can provide fresh herbs for meal after meal, proving that even one small pot can become a remarkably productive food-growing system. At number 14, we have dill. Most gardeners grow dill for its fresh flavor, but few realize how much productivity can come from a single container. At first glance, dill doesn't look like a high-yield crop. Its thin stems and delicate feathery leaves appear almost fragile compared to many vegetables. But what makes dill special is that nearly every stage of its growth produces something useful. A container that is at least 10 to 12 inches deep provides enough room for healthy root development, while 6 or more hours of direct sunlight each day encourages vigorous growth. Within about 40 to 60 days after planting, gardeners can begin harvesting the fragrant leaves, but that's only the beginning. As the season progresses, dill produces flower heads that are highly valued for pickling, and later, those flowers develop into seeds that can be harvested and stored as a spice. Few container crops offer 3 separate harvest opportunities from a single planting. Another reason dill ranks so highly is its ability to reseed itself. If some mature seeds are allowed to fall back into the container, new dill plants often emerge on their own. What begins as a single crop can gradually turn into multiple generations growing in the same pot. This self-renewing habit dramatically increases long-term productivity with very little effort from the gardener. Dill also grows vertically rather than spreading outward, making it an efficient use of limited space. Even a small balcony or patio can support several containers without feeling crowded. Beyond the harvest itself, dill contributes to the overall health of a container garden by attracting pollinators and beneficial insects when it flowers. These insects help support nearby crops and improve the productivity of the entire growing area. One of the most common mistakes people make is choosing containers that are too shallow, which can limit root development and reduce plant vigor. With proper depth, sunlight, and regular watering, dill often grows taller and more productive than most people expect. What makes dill deserve its place on this list is its incredible efficiency. It produces edible leaves, flowers, and seeds, frequently replants itself, attracts beneficial insects, and requires very little space to do it. A single container can continue providing value long after many other herbs have finished their season, making dill one of the hardest working plants a container gardener can grow. At number 13, we have parsley. This is one of the most underestimated herbs in container gardening because most people think of it as nothing more than a garnish. They see a few sprigs on a plate and assume it has little value beyond decoration. But gardeners who grow parsley quickly discover that it can become one of the most productive plants in their entire container garden. A pot that is 8 to 10 inches deep provides enough room for strong root development, and with 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day, parsley can produce a steady supply of leaves for months. Unlike many vegetables that are harvested once and removed, parsley thrives on a cut and regrow cycle. The key is to harvest only the outer stems while leaving the center of the plant untouched. This encourages continuous new growth and allows the same plant to remain productive throughout the season. Most varieties are ready for their first harvest in about 60 to 70 days, but once production begins, the harvest can continue for a remarkably long time. One of the reasons parsley is so valuable is that it fits into almost every kitchen. Because it is used so frequently, gardeners often find themselves harvesting from the same container several times each week. That regular use transforms parsley from a simple herb into a dependable food crop. Another advantage is its adaptability. Parsley tolerates cooler temperatures better than many herbs and can continue growing when more heat-sensitive crops begin to struggle. Container growing also allows gardeners to maintain consistent soil moisture, which parsley loves. One of the most common mistakes is cutting the entire plant at once. While this may provide a larger, immediate harvest, it significantly reduces long-term productivity. Experienced growers know that smaller, more frequent harvests produce far more food over the course of a season. A healthy parsley plant can provide dozens of harvests before it finally slows down. At number 12, we have mustard greens. If you're looking for a crop that makes a container look productive in the shortest amount of time possible, mustard greens are hard to beat. Many gardeners are shocked by how quickly these plants grow. A container that seemed nearly empty a few weeks earlier can suddenly be overflowing with large, edible leaves ready for harvest. That's one of the biggest reasons mustard greens earn a place on this list. They combine fast growth, repeated harvests, and impressive yields from a relatively small space. Most varieties grow well in containers that are at least 8 to 10 inches deep and receive 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day. Under favorable conditions, gardeners can begin harvesting leaves in as little as 30 to 40 days after planting. Another advantage is the size of the harvest. Unlike many herbs that produce small leaves, mustard greens develop broad foliage that can fill bowls, stir-fries, soups, and salads with just a few cuttings. This makes each harvest feel substantial. One of the secrets to maximizing production is using the cut and come again method. Instead of pulling the entire plant, gardeners harvest only the larger outer leaves while allowing the center to continue growing. The plant responds by producing new foliage, creating a cycle of continuous harvests that can last for weeks or even months. Frequent harvesting actually encourages additional growth, making the container more productive over time. Mustard greens also perform exceptionally well during cool weather, making them ideal for spring and fall gardening when many summer crops are not yet producing. Their slightly peppery flavor becomes milder when harvested young and stronger as the leaves mature. giving gardeners flexibility in how they use the crop. One common mistake is overcrowding plants in a container. While mustard greens can be planted fairly densely, excessive crowding reduces airflow and limits leaf size. Giving each plant enough room allows it to reach its full productive potential. Another advantage of mustard greens is their nutritional value. The leaves are rich in vitamins A, C, and K, making them one of the healthiest crops a container gardener can grow. At number 11, we have tatsoi. At first glance, tatsoi may not look like one of the highest-yielding crops you can grow in a container. Its low-growing rosette of dark green leaves appears compact and modest compared to larger vegetables. But that's exactly what makes it such an efficient producer. Tatsoi excels at turning a small amount of space into a surprisingly large amount of food. Because the plants remain compact, they can be grown much closer together than many other greens, allowing gardeners to fit more plants into a single container. A pot that is only 6 to 8 inches deep is usually sufficient, making tatsoi an excellent choice for balconies, patios, and other limited growing areas. One of the reasons tatsoi ranks so highly is its speed. Under good growing conditions, it can be ready for harvest in as little as 25 to 40 days. That means gardeners don't have to wait long before seeing results. With 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day and consistently moist soil, tatsoi develops dense clusters of spoon-shaped leaves that are both attractive and highly productive. Another advantage is its cut-and-come-again growth habit. Instead of harvesting the entire plant, gardeners can remove the larger outer leaves while leaving the center intact. This allows the plant to continue producing fresh foliage for multiple harvest cycles. Over time, the total amount harvested from a single container can be surprisingly impressive. Tatsoi also thrives during cooler weather, making it one of the best crops for extending the productivity of a container garden into spring and fall. While many vegetables slow down or struggle when temperatures drop, tatsoi often continues producing high-quality leaves. This resilience makes it particularly valuable for gardeners looking to maximize food production throughout the year. One common mistake gardeners make is overwatering. Although tatsoi appreciates consistent moisture, waterlogged soil can lead to root problems and reduced growth. Using a well-draining potting mix helps maintain healthy plants and steady production. At number 10, we have mizuna. This is one of those crops that often surprises gardeners because it doesn't look particularly impressive when it's first planted. The seedlings are small, delicate, and easy to overlook. But once mizuna gets established, it can become one of the most productive leafy greens in a container garden. What makes it so valuable is its remarkable ability to regrow after harvest. While some vegetables produce a single crop and then decline, mizuna seems determined to keep generating new leaves every time it's cut. That's exactly why experienced gardeners love it. A container only 6 to 8 inches deep is usually enough to support healthy plants, making mizuna an excellent choice for small balconies, patios, and urban gardens where space is limited. One of its biggest advantages is speed. Under favorable conditions, gardeners can begin harvesting leaves in as little as 20 to 30 days after planting. Few leafy vegetables deliver usable food so quickly. With 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day and consistent watering, mizuna develops dense clusters of deeply cut leaves that create an abundant appearance in a surprisingly short period of time. The real productivity comes from its cut-and-come-again nature. Instead of harvesting the entire plant, gardeners remove the outer leaves and leave the center growing. New foliage quickly replaces what was harvested, allowing the same container to provide multiple harvests over an extended period. Frequent harvesting actually helps encourage more growth, turning a single planting into a long-term source of fresh greens. One common mistake is waiting too long to harvest. Older leaves can become tougher, while regular cutting encourages tender new growth and higher overall production. At number 9, we have sorrel. This is one of the most underrated edible plants in container gardening, largely because many people have never heard of it. Yet, among experienced gardeners, sorrel is often considered one of the most productive long-term crops you can grow in a pot. Unlike many leafy greens that need to be replanted every season, sorrel is a perennial in many climates, which means a single planting can continue producing for years. That's a huge advantage when you're trying to maximize productivity from limited space. A container that is 10 to 12 inches deep provides enough room for the plant's strong root system. And once established, sorrel becomes remarkably reliable. It grows well in either full sun or partial shade, making it more adaptable than many other leafy crops. Most gardeners can begin harvesting leaves about 50 to 60 days after planting, but the real value comes afterward. Instead of reaching a peak and declining, sorrel settles into a cycle of continuous production. The plant constantly sends up new leaves from the center, while older leaves can be harvested from the outside. This allows gardeners to enjoy repeated harvests throughout the growing season with very little maintenance. Another reason sorrel ranks so highly is its resilience. It tolerates cooler temperatures exceptionally well and often begins producing early in the season before many other vegetables have even started growing. In some regions, it can continue producing until frost and then return the following year even stronger. That kind of long-term performance is rare in container gardening. One of the secrets to maintaining high productivity is removing flower stalks as soon as they appear. If the plant is allowed to focus on seed production, leaf growth slows down. By redirecting energy back into foliage production, gardeners can dramatically increase the total harvest over the season. Another advantage is that sorrel requires relatively little attention once established. It doesn't demand constant fertilizing, complicated pruning, or frequent replanting. At number 8, we have celeriac. This is the crop that often surprises people the most because it doesn't look like a high-yield container plant while it's growing. In fact, for much of the season, celeriac appears fairly ordinary. The leaves resemble celery, the growth seems slow, and there isn't much visible excitement above the soil. But beneath the surface, a completely different story is unfolding. Day after day, the plant is building a large, dense, edible root that eventually becomes one of the most substantial harvests you can pull from a container. To grow successfully, celeriac needs a container that is at least 12 inches deep and wide enough to support the developing root. It performs best with 6 or more hours of sunlight each day and consistently moist soil. One of the most common mistakes gardeners make is allowing the soil to dry out. Unlike some vegetables that tolerate occasional drought, celeriac prefers steady moisture throughout its growing cycle. Under good conditions, harvest typically arrives after about 100 to 120 days. While that may seem like a long wait compared to fast-growing greens, the final reward is substantial. What makes celeriac especially productive is that it provides more than one harvest. While the large root is the primary attraction, the aromatic leaves can also be used in soups, stocks, and cooking throughout the season. Then, when harvest day finally arrives, the swollen root delivers a significant amount of food from a single plant. Container growing often improves the quality of that harvest because the growing medium can be carefully controlled. Loose, well-draining potting soil allows the root to develop evenly, without the rocks and compaction that frequently affect garden-grown specimens. The result is often a smoother, larger, and more attractive harvest. Another reason celeriac deserves recognition is storage. Unlike many leafy vegetables that must be eaten quickly, harvested celeriac can be stored for extended periods under proper conditions. That means the container isn't just producing food for today, it is producing food for future meals as well. At number 7, we have daikon radish. Most people think of radishes as small, round vegetables that mature quickly and fit easily in the palm of your hand. Daikon radish completely changes that perception. This is a root crop that can grow to extraordinary sizes, often reaching 12 to 18 inches long and sometimes weighing several pounds under ideal conditions. That's an impressive amount of food from a single plant, especially when it's grown in a container. In fact, daikon is one of the clearest examples that container gardening isn't limited to small harvests. With the right setup, a single pot can produce a root large enough to become the centerpiece of multiple meals. Because of its size, daikon requires a deeper container than many other vegetables. A pot at least 12 to 18 inches deep is recommended, giving the root enough room to develop straight and uninterrupted. The plant thrives in full sun, ideally receiving 6 or more hours of direct sunlight each day, and most varieties reach harvest size within 50 to 70 days. One of the biggest advantages of growing daikon in containers is soil control. In traditional garden beds, rocks, hard clay, or compacted soil can cause roots to fork, twist, or become misshapen. Containers eliminate many of these problems by allowing gardeners to create a loose, well-draining growing medium specifically designed for root development. The result is often larger, straighter, and more attractive harvests. Another reason daikon ranks so highly is that it offers 2 edible crops from a single planting. While the massive root is the main attraction, the leafy greens are also edible and highly nutritious. Many gardeners harvest some of the leaves while the root continues developing below. This means the container begins producing food long before harvest day arrives. Few root crops provide that kind of dual-purpose productivity. One common mistake is choosing containers that are too shallow. When roots encounter the bottom of the pot too early, growth is restricted and yields decline significantly. Providing sufficient depth is one of the easiest ways to maximize production. At number 6, we have fennel. This is one of the most versatile and productive crops you can grow in a container because it provides multiple harvests from a single plant. Most vegetables give you one edible part. Fennel gives you several. The swollen bulb at the base can be harvested as a vegetable. The feathery fronds can be used as an herb. The stalks can flavor soups and stocks. And if the plant is allowed to mature, it produces seeds that can be harvested and stored as a spice. Few container crops offer this much value from one planting. That's exactly why fennel earns a place so high on this list. To grow successfully, fennel needs a container at least 12 inches deep with plenty of room for root development. It performs best in full sun, ideally receiving 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every day. Most bulb varieties reach maturity in about 80 to 100 days, although gardeners can begin harvesting small amounts of foliage much earlier. One of the biggest advantages of fennel is its upright growth habit. Unlike sprawling vegetables that consume large amounts of horizontal space, fennel grows vertically, making it an efficient use of valuable container garden real estate. This allows gardeners to dedicate one pot to a crop that continues providing value throughout its entire life cycle. Another reason fennel performs so well in containers is the level of control growers have over soil quality and moisture. The plant prefers rich, well-draining soil that remains consistently moist. One common mistake is overcrowding. Because fennel develops a large bulb, plants need adequate spacing to reach their full potential. When given enough room, the bulb gradually swells into a substantial harvest that feels surprisingly large for a container-grown vegetable. At number 5, we have leeks. This is the point in the countdown where productivity begins to look less like constant harvesting and more like building a truly substantial food crop. Most people associate container gardening with leafy greens and herbs because they grow quickly and fit into small spaces. Leeks prove that containers can produce something much more significant. A mature leek isn't just a handful of leaves. It's a thick, flavorful stalk that can become the foundation of an entire meal. And because multiple plants can be grown together in one container, the total harvest can be surprisingly impressive. To reach their full potential, leeks need a container that is at least 10 to 12 inches deep. The extra depth allows growers to gradually add soil around the stems as they grow, a technique known as blanching. This encourages longer, more tender white shafts, which are the most desirable part of the plant. Leeks perform best with 6 or more hours of sunlight per day, and typically reach harvest size within 100 to 120 days. While they require more patience than fast-growing greens, the final reward is often worth the wait. One of the reasons leeks rank so highly is their space efficiency. Unlike vegetables that spread outward, leeks grow almost entirely upward. This allows gardeners to plant them relatively close together while still achieving excellent yields. A single deep container can support a surprisingly large number of plants, transforming a small growing area into a productive source of food. Another major advantage is seasonal resilience. Leeks thrive in cool weather and often continue growing long after many summer crops have finished. In some climates, they can even tolerate light frosts, making them one of the most reliable vegetables for extending the growing season. This extended productivity increases the overall value of every container dedicated to the crop. In the kitchen, leeks are incredibly versatile. Their mild, sweet onion flavor works beautifully in soups, stews, casseroles, pasta dishes, quiches, roasted vegetable mixes, and countless other recipes. Because they are often more expensive than standard onions at grocery stores, harvesting your own leeks feels particularly rewarding. Each mature stalk represents a meaningful amount of food rather than just a garnish or seasoning. At number 4, we have garlic chives. If there is one plant on this list that perfectly demonstrates the concept of plant it once and harvest it for years, it's garlic chives. Many gardeners initially grow them because they're easy to maintain, but they continue growing them because of how incredibly productive they become over time. Unlike annual herbs that need to be replanted every season, garlic chives establish a strong root system and return year after year, producing larger harvests with each passing season. A container that is only 8 to 10 inches deep is usually enough to support healthy growth, making this one of the most efficient crops for small space gardeners. With just 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day, garlic chives can thrive and begin producing harvestable leaves in roughly 60 days. But what makes them truly special isn't the first harvest. It's the hundreds of harvests that can follow. The secret to their productivity lies in their remarkable ability to regrow. Every time the leaves are cut near the base, the plant responds by producing fresh new shoots. In many climates, gardeners can harvest garlic chives every few weeks throughout the growing season. Some established plants can provide dozens of cuttings each year. This continuous cycle turns a single container into a long-term source of fresh food. Another reason garlic chives rank so highly is their exceptional space efficiency. The leaves grow upright rather than sprawling outward, allowing a large amount of edible material to be produced from a relatively small footprint. Over time, the clump expands naturally, filling the container with dense growth and increasing yields even further. One common mistake is allowing the plant to become root-bound for too many years. Dividing mature clumps every few seasons helps maintain vigorous growth and keeps production high. At number 3, we have watercress. This is one of the fastest-growing edible crops you can grow in a container, and once it becomes established, its productivity can be almost unbelievable. While many leafy vegetables require weeks or even months between major harvests, watercress seems to operate on an entirely different schedule. Under the right conditions, it grows so quickly that gardeners often find themselves harvesting simply to prevent it from taking over the container. That's one of the main reasons watercress earns a place in the top 3. It combines rapid growth, repeated harvests, and exceptional nutritional value in a very small amount of space. Unlike most vegetables, watercress actually prefers consistently moist conditions. A container only 6 to 8 inches deep is usually sufficient because the plant develops a relatively shallow root system. It performs best in partial sun, especially in areas with warm summers, and can often be harvested within just 20 to 30 days after planting. Few edible crops offer a faster return on investment. What makes watercress so productive is its growth habit. Instead of forming a single head or producing one central harvest, it continuously sends out new stems and leaves. Each stem becomes another opportunity for harvesting. As the plant spreads across the surface of the container, production increases dramatically. A small planting can quickly transform into a dense mat of edible foliage that seems to regenerate almost as quickly as it's harvested. The best way to maximize yield is to trim the stems regularly while leaving the root system intact. This encourages branching and stimulates even more growth. Over time, the total amount harvested from a single container can be astonishing. Some gardeners report harvesting from the same planting week after week for months. Another reason watercress deserves its high ranking is its nutritional profile. It is widely recognized as one of the most nutrient-dense leafy greens available, packed with vitamins A, C, and K, as well as numerous antioxidants and minerals. That means every harvest delivers not only quantity, but also exceptional nutritional value. One of the most common mistakes gardeners make is allowing the container to dry out. Watercress thrives on moisture, and even short periods of drought can reduce growth significantly. Maintaining consistently damp soil is the key to unlocking its full productive potential. At number 2, we have perpetual spinach. The name alone explains why this crop ranks so highly. Most vegetables follow a predictable pattern. They grow, they mature, they're harvested, and eventually their productive life comes to an end. Perpetual spinach seems determined to break that rule. Once established, it can continue producing fresh leaves for months, often outlasting traditional spinach by a huge margin. That's exactly why container gardeners love it. When space is limited, every pot needs to generate as much food as possible, and perpetual spinach excels at doing just that. A container that is 10 to 12 inches deep provides plenty of room for healthy root development, and with 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day, plants can begin producing harvestable leaves in approximately 40 to 50 days. But the first harvest is only the beginning. The real productivity comes from the plant's cut-and-come-again growth habit. Instead of removing the entire plant, gardeners simply harvest the larger outer leaves, while allowing the center to continue growing. New foliage constantly replaces what was removed, creating a nearly endless cycle of production. A healthy container can provide harvest after harvest throughout the season. Another advantage is the size of the leaves. They grow large enough that even a modest harvest feels substantial. A few plants can provide enough greens for salads, smoothies, soups, stir-fries, pasta dishes, and cooked vegetable recipes on a regular basis. Because the harvest is so versatile, gardeners often find themselves using it several times each week. One common mistake is harvesting too aggressively. Removing the entire plant may provide a larger immediate harvest, but it sacrifices months of future production. Experienced growers understand that frequent light harvesting produces far greater yields over time. Another benefit is the plant's adaptability. It performs well in a variety of climates and continues producing under conditions that challenge many other leafy vegetables. This reliability makes it one of the safest choices for gardeners who want consistent results. At number 1, we have mint. This is the plant that completely changes the conversation about container productivity. In fact, mint is so vigorous that many gardeners don't grow it in containers because they prefer containers. They grow it in containers because they have no other choice. Left in a garden bed, Mint has a reputation for spreading aggressively through underground runners and quickly taking over large areas. But when all of that growth energy is confined to a single pot, the result is one of the most productive edible plants you can possibly grow. That's why mint earns the #1 position on this list. A container at least 12 inches deep is ideal because mint develops an extensive root system that continuously generates new shoots. With 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day and regular watering, plants can be ready for their first harvest in as little as 30 days. But unlike many herbs that slow down after harvesting, mint actually responds by producing even more growth. Every time stems are cut, the plant sends up fresh shoots from the base, creating a constant cycle of regeneration that can continue for months or even years. Another advantage is adaptability. Mint tolerates partial shade better than many herbs and performs well in a wide range of climates. It is also relatively forgiving of beginner mistakes, making it one of the easiest edible plants to grow successfully. One common mistake, however, is planting mint directly in the ground. Given enough time, it can spread far beyond its original location. Containers act as natural barriers, concentrating all of that vigorous growth into a controlled space where it becomes an asset rather than a problem. What truly makes mint deserving of the #1 spot is its combination of speed, resilience, regrowth, and sheer volume of production. Few edible plants can match its ability to generate harvest after harvest from the same container with so little effort. While other crops eventually slow down, mint simply keeps growing. It proves that when the right plant is paired with the right container, a single pot can become a remarkably productive food-producing system. And that's exactly why mint stands at the very top of this list. What do you think about the 15 vegetables and herbs I mentioned in this video? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and share this video. Also, make sure to hit the notification bell so you can stay updated on the next video. See you next time.